Good morning, everybody. Hewie, it is November 24th, episode 294. So we're getting up there
Yep.
as we move forward here. So, and welcome. It's, of course, Thanksgiving this week in the United States. So hopefully everybody is going to have a great time with their families and a great turkey dinner. But just if you are on Thursday and you are wondering what to do with yourselves and you're getting, maybe you're getting kicked out of the kitchen or something and you've got a whole bunch of extra time, you can watch Tech for Senior live because Huey and I and Mike will be doing the show this Thursday. So even though it is a holiday, we're sticking it out there and we are going to do our Thursday show. Now, however, we're taking a holiday in December, so the Thursday show will be no more on them because we'll be away for December. But that doesn't mean we're going to be away from the Monday show. The Monday show will continue on, and in fact, just for all you news hungry people who are just so demanding that you have to have some news, we're going to add a 10-minute news segment into the Monday show, and so you'll be able to have some news. So we'll be adding a 10-minute segment in December into the Monday show for the news, and we'll go over all the news articles of the week. So the Monday show stays the same. It'll always be on Monday. Snow, rain, sleet, whatever. It will always be on Monday. But for the month of December, we're going to take our Thursday show and we'll put a 10-minute segment in there. Did I explain that correctly, Huey? Did I get it right?
I think so. It sounded like you weren't too confused.
Is that right? Okay. All right. Good. So just so everybody understands that. And of course, the newsletter will go on as well. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention before I introduce everybody today, I'd like to. It came up this on another meeting this prior week, and it had to do with security and I guess personal privacy. And I just want to let everybody know this meeting is comprised of our social section, which is in the front of the video. Then we have the recording that's published starts when I say, "Welcome everyone, Huey, da 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 da," and then we cut it off for our publication right before the question and answer. So the social part before and the question and answer are not part of the published show. So whatever you say in the before and after does not get published on YouTube. So it is only published. The only time part of the show that we publish is the beginning and right till I say we're going to do the Q&A. Other than that, everything there. And then of course we admit the music segment for copyright reasons. So you can say whichever you want. I guess there's more people concerned about what they say, and and when you're putting it on a social media platform. So you can say whatever you want because we don't, and we've always done that. I've never put the social part in the front. It's never been recorded and put on. The Q&A at the back, I stopped putting that in about a year and a half ago. Nobody seemed to notice. Anyway, we just stopped doing it. So that's it. And what do we got? Oh, so for the premiere video today, we have three things. I'm going to be talking about AI prompts, what an it prompt is and how to use it. Huey's going to talk about artificial general intelligence, AGI, and he's also going to talk about finding phone numbers. So all that in our premiere version, premiere video at 1/2 past the hour. Let me introduce everyone today. Of course, we have Hewie Poplock, who will be, of course, running the show next Monday, which is great. Welcome, Huey.
I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. And Bill James, I don't see you there. Are you there? He's got
I'm
his.
here.
You're
I'm
here.
here. Sorry.
Let's see your
I was getting
smiling
I was
face.
getting a cup of tea.
Oh, okay, great. And excellent. And you're telling me, I thought you were using, I like your Mac camera. You're so clear. But you're using, which one are you using today? You're using the
This is the Logitech uh 𝕤𝕝𝕅 that I
Rio.
have on my all-in-one that's here in the kitchen.
Excellent.
That I
Excellent.
actually use as a TV, but I also use it as a computer.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a good camera. That's a good one. Mike Leaman from Moncton, New Brunswick. Mike, welcome, and we look forward to your music and video selection today. I told you you're a regular on our Saturday night ritual now. We have to look and we watch your movie every Saturday night. I told you my wife said, "Tell Mike enough of dogs." So
Oh yeah, but they are good dog movies.
I
They
know
really
they
are.
were good dogs.
They're
She
kind
says,
of
"Enough
feel good
dog-"
movies, you know. And but anyways, no dog movie for this week, and no
Okay.
dog movie for next week.
So if they make a Max Goes to the Moon or something,
Well, we
we'll just
maybe might have to go to that, but no, I gotta warn you. Come December, holiday season, movies are fair game.
yes, that's true. That's true. Max goes to the North Pole.
Max goes to the North Pole.
Right. Okay. All right. All right. I think that's it. We should probably get going. The first video we have today for you is one by myself. And it's about Nano Banana. Now, you might say, what's Nano Banana? Well, you should know that. But it's very interesting because I read an article this morning about Gemini and how it's taking up more and more of ChatGPT's market. Like it's sort of surging ahead now from Chat, not ahead of ChatGPT, but it's moving up. And one of the primary things about that is, of course, the new Gemini version, but also Nano Banana. So it's important to know what Nano Banana is and some of the controversy about it. So let me just play this and we'll see what they have to say about it.
All right, so Google has dropped its brand new AI image generator Nano Banana Pro, and wow, is it making some waves. But here's the thing, the buzz isn't just about its incredible new features. The launch itself was, well, let's just say it was complicated. So let's break down what makes this tool such a professional game changer and why it's sparked so much debate.
And that complication? It really kicks off with the price tag. The second this thing launched, the conversation wasn't just about its power, it was about who actually gets to use it. This tension, between pro-level capability and accessibility, that's the core of the whole debate. And we're going to dig into it as we unpack what this Pro tool can really do.
So first, to really get a handle on Nano Banana Pro, we have to look back at what came before it. This isn't just some minor update. It is a direct response to all the limitations of the original model. You know, the one that went viral for being fun, but was held back by some pretty clear weaknesses.
Yeah, you probably remember these issues, right? The original was awesome for like fun portraits, but if you tried to put any text in there, forget it. You just get this garbled nonsense mess. And everything, I mean everything, was stuck in that 1:1 square aspect ratio. That was a huge, huge roadblock if you were trying to do any kind of serious work.
And this slide right here shows just how massive that leap forward is. I mean, just look at the comparison. We're going from 1K resolution all the way up to native 4K. We're going from text you can't even read to sharp, usable typography, and from basically no editing tools to having advanced control over lighting and camera angles. This is the jump from a fun toy to a serious, professional tool. But here's the thing, the upgrade is so much more than just better pixels. The biggest change, honestly, is how intelligent the model is. It's not just spitting out an image anymore, it's actually reasoning about your prompt before it even starts to draw. They're calling this new feature thinking mode. So when you turn this on, the model actually goes through this whole internal reasoning process. It's basically creating rough drafts and refining its own plan behind the scenes, all to make sure the final image is coherent and exactly what you asked for.
Okay, let's see this in action. This shows the thinking trace for just one prompt. Create an infographic explaining the dataset open source project. So first the model hits Google search to grab the info. Then it maps out a workflow, sketches the structure, and finally it builds the polished graphic. The end result? A complex, accurate infographic from just a 9-word prompt. That is absolutely incredible. And this new intelligence, it spreads out to all these other key features. It can ground its images in real-time search data so they're factually accurate. It can finally render text that you can actually read. And it has enough real-world knowledge to generate super technical diagrams like a chemical reactor for serious R&D work.
All of this new brainpower leads to the next huge leap forward: creative control. ℎ𝕝𝕝 Pro basically puts a whole suite of professional-grade tools right in your hands, giving you a level of precision we just haven't seen before. I mean, just look at this example. With a super simple prompt, change to night, the model realistically transforms the entire scene. It adjusts all the lighting, the shadows, the reflections. This kind of fine-grained control over a scene's physics is a total game changer. It also handles some incredible complexity. Get this, ℎ𝕝𝕝 Pro can take up to 14 different reference images. We're talking product photos, logos, character models, you name it, and blend them all seamlessly into one single, cohesive scene. That is a massive advantage for creating complex work. And the list of new controls just goes on and on. You can now change camera angles, you can adjust the depth of field to shift your focus, and you can finally break free from that 1-to-1 aspect ratio jail. And maybe most importantly, it can keep characters consistent across multiple scenes, which is a huge win for any kind of storytelling.
So with all these new features, where does a tool like this actually fit in? Well, we're already seeing it being integrated directly into the places where creative and technical pros are doing their day-to-day work.
And here is the absolute biggest piece of news. Adobe ℎ𝕝𝕝 Pro is now plugged directly into Adobe Firefly and Photoshop, and it's powering features like generative fill. That single move right there establishes it as a legit, high-end tool for literally millions of creative professionals.
This just blows the doors open for all kinds of professional uses. You've got creative teams brainstorming campaigns, marketing teams generating localized ads, and R&D departments visualizing complex technical concepts. It can even take a rough napkin sketch and turn it into a polished, realistic product mock-up.
Now, here's a really crucial strategic detail that a lot of people are missing. This model was trained entirely on Google's own custom hardware, their TPUs, not on the NVIDIA chips that pretty much everyone else uses. This gives Google a massive infrastructure advantage. It's a signal that ℎ𝕝𝕝 Pro isn't just some experiment. It is a very serious, long-term play for the professional AI market. Which brings us right back to where we started, the price of all this power. Because for all of its incredible new capabilities, getting access to the full potential of ℎ𝕝𝕝 Pro, well, it comes at a cost. And that has sparked a really heated debate in the community.
This chart just lays it all out, crystal clear. If you're on the free tier, you're getting what, 3 images a day? Barely anything. But to get any real volume, you have to be a paid subscriber. And that's where the access just scales dramatically. This whole tiered system is really at the heart of the community's frustration.
And for developers who are using the API, the cost is very real. About 24 cents for just one 4K image. Now that might not sound like a lot, but believe me, it adds up incredibly fast when you're trying out different creative ideas, which makes high-volume use really expensive for independent creators or small teams.
And this slide, it just perfectly captures both sides of the argument. On one side, you have users who feel like the cost is just totally out of reach. But on the other, you've got developers pointing out that, hey, this is computationally expensive work, and it's just not reasonable to expect a service this advanced to be free.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, despite the fiery debate over the cost, there is no denying that ℎ𝕝𝕝 Pro is a massive leap forward. It's a smarter, more controllable, and truly professional-grade tool that is already starting to reshape creative and technical workflows.
And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. We now have AI that can turn a scribble into a finished product and a simple sentence into a data-driven infographic. So the real question isn't just about what this tech can do today, but what does it mean for the entire future of creative work?
Okay, ℎ𝕝𝕝. Moving on to something a little bit different. This week, I had the opportunity of working with Jim Ham to help him decide on what smartwatch he was going to buy, and he eventually saw one of my videos, and he will talk about his purchase a little bit later on. So I've done a lot of smartwatch videos on healthcare applications for seniors, and I wanted just to review that again in light of the holidays, because the watch I'm going to recommend, we call it the $99 watch that will save your life. So that's how I've done this video. Sit back, relax, and just enjoy it. It's going to take about 20 minutes to roll through. So today we're going to look at peripherals. These peripherals include smartwatches and rings. These information gather data, usually cardiac data, and send the information back to your smartphone. Today I'm going to give a bit of a deeper dive in that and give you my perspective as a physician. Now this is a little different from reporters who usually talk about this, and when they come to things like ECG, they say, oh, that's so important, it does an ECG. But they don't really understand why that's important. So I'm going to give a bit of a different perspective today. I'm also going to tell you what smartwatch my wife and I wear, and this might surprise you. Stay tuned, this should be a lot of fun today, and I'm going to give you some good advice. I'm Ron Brown with Tech for Senior, where we help seniors understand technology and help them manage their health, particularly in getting knowledge about specific devices such as smartphones and peripheral devices like watches and rings. Remember, this is the second in a 5-part series I'm doing, and this is episode number 2. Now, there are many benefits to wearing peripheral devices such as watches and rings, and we're going to go through a lot of them in this series. But in this video, I'm going to tell you that everybody over the age of 60 should be wearing a smartwatch for 2 specific reasons. And we're going to talk about those 2 reasons and what my advice is and which watches you should be wearing. So the first graph I'm going to show you is the incidence of pacemaker insertion over the age of 60. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. So the graph on the screen is the incidence of pacemaker insertion based on age. And if you look, you'll see that after the age of 60, the incidence goes up not linearly, it goes up exponentially. So by the time you get to 70, lots of your friends are going to have pacemakers. And by the time you get to be 80, you're going to have lots of friends with pacemakers. So it goes up exponentially. Now, why is this so important? Well, let me give you 2 examples. 2 years ago, a lady in the town that I live in, Comox, British Columbia, was driving along and she was going to fill up gas at a convenience store. She had a medical event, passed out, drove through the pumps into the store. This caused a huge fire and burnt down the mini mall that she was in. The problem was there was a 300-pound propane tank attached to this because they sold propane. And there were 300 residents in the newly built apartment complex just next door. This could have turned out to be a total disaster. Fortunately, the firemen got the fire out quickly and they rescued the lady as well. So other than big disaster, there was no loss of life. Let me tell you about my second personal experience. A good friend of mine, a dentist from Nebraska, I've known for 30 years, had some symptoms. He was up on some scaffolding on his house. He passed out, fell off the scaffolding, broke a number of bones, and had a severe head injury. Today, after 1.5 years of therapy, he still has a significant brain injury, needs care, and will not be driving anymore. Had he had his pacemaker put in prior to the accident, none of this would have happened. So in your communities, you'll hear stories about medical events happening. A senior lost control of the car, went across a couple of lanes, maybe smashed into a restaurant, killing a young family of 5. These are very common reported accidents. And these are all because when your heart rate goes down to a very slow rate, the blood doesn't flow to your brain, and this causes you to pass out. And if you're driving a car, this could be disastrous. So we definitely need to know when your heart rate is too slow. So the first tip I'm going to give you when we're looking at purchasing a smartwatch to monitor our pulse, because we want to figure out if our pulse is too slow, we want to pick a watch. And most of them do this, no matter how cheap the watch is. They do a good job of measuring your pulse. But what you want to be able to do is to be notified if your pulse is too slow or too fast. Now, in the case of a pacemaker, it's going to be too slow. So you'll want to be able to control what the setting is on the slow side so it will notify you. So when you get your watch, I want you to set it up, and I want you to set the minimum heart rate before you get notified would be 60. And if your heart rate goes lower than 60, you need to talk to your healthcare provider. Now, a lot of blood pressure medicines you take do slow your heart rate down. And so that may not be abnormal. So your caregiver may decide that you should go from 60 maybe to 55 or maybe even down to 50 before you get notified. But if your heart rate goes lower than 50, then you need a thorough investigation just to make absolutely sure that you are not moving into that dangerous area where your heart is slowing down enough, you're going to lose circulation to your brain and require a pacemaker. And remember, this goes up exponentially. The incidence of this is very, very common. So if you get to be 70 years old, it is very, very high probability that sometime you may need a pacemaker. All right, so the second reason why it is so important that you have a smartwatch is to pick up if your heart rate is going too fast. Yes, too fast. And that could be a condition called atrial fibrillation. And this is where your heart rate speeds up. Now, again, as you look at the incidence on this graph, it's almost exactly the same graph. It goes up exponentially after the age of 60. Now, the problem with atrial fibrillation are twofold. The first, of course, is that there's a 5 times incidence of stroke. So if you have this condition, there's a 5 times increased incidence that you may have a stroke. And this is really a bad thing. I mean, if you have a stroke, you may not be able to drive again. You may not be able to live in your house anymore. You may need extended care. There's all sorts of things you don't want. You don't want to get a stroke. So the other problem with atrial fibrillation is over half the people that have atrial fibrillation don't know they have it. So it's hard to diagnose because if you don't have any symptoms, how are you going to know that you have atrial fibrillation until you end up in the hospital with a stroke? So if we had a way of helping those folks and identifying people that have atrial fibrillation, and it's common because if you saw that exponential graph, if we could help those, if we could find those people, identify them and get them help, then this would be a big improvement in people's well-being. So remember that watch that set the minimum heartbeat. We're looking for slow heartbeats for your pacemaker. Now we want to look at fast heartbeats. So you're going to take that same watch that you've bought because it will let you now set a maximum heartbeat to be notified. And I'm going to tell you to set it at 130 beats per minute. And if your heart rate goes over that, then you're going to see your healthcare provider. Talk it over with your healthcare provider. They may want to do some testing on that. And if it's okay, then we could increase it to maybe 140. But anything over 140, then you need to get that checked out for sure to make sure it's not atrial fibrillation. So we have 2 conditions now that you can just by getting a simple smartwatch that measures your pulse. It's very easy for these devices to measure your pulse, and you want to set it to a minimum and maximum heartbeat, and you're going to pick up the 2 deadliest and most important reasons for wearing a smartwatch. So wouldn't it be great if when your heart rate sped up and it was over 130 and you were concerned and wondering, do I have atrial fibrillation? If we could actually do an ECG or EKG, they're the same test, and it would identify it right there. And this came out about 10 years ago on the Apple Watch was the first to have this. And this is now the ability on smartwatches, certain smartwatches that are approved by the FDA to do an ECG. It will actually do an ECG on your wrist, and it will tell you if you are or are not in atrial fibrillation. This was a big step forward in health with smartwatches. But it even got better. So let's think a little bit more about this. Now, I've already told you that half the people that have atrial fibrillation don't know they have it. So how are you going to help those folks? Well, you'd have to sort of monitor it on your pulse on a continual basis, right? To try and figure this out, because if you don't have any symptoms, you're just how would you know when to push the button to do an ECG on your watch? So the next breakthrough occurred about 5 years later, and these devices were, with the improving sensors, were able to do periodic testing on your heartbeat through the day. Now, it's not continuous, but they would monitor it periodically and try and pick up periods of atrial fibrillation. Now, one of the problems with the sensors we had 5 years ago, of course, were they weren't as good as we have now, and we really required you to be resting when they were trying to monitor this as you went around with your daily activity. So it would pick it up periodically through the day and mostly at night. And that's one of the really critical things about watches, is that you need to wear these devices at night, because a lot of the monitoring occurs at night because you're resting. When you're up walking around and moving, it's harder for these sensors to diagnose atrial fibrillation. And that came out about 5 years ago. And again, the Samsung, the Apple, the Google Fitbit, and Pixel watches all have been approved by the FDA to do this periodic monitoring, and it will notify you if there's any periods of atrial fibrillation. Okay, so let's go to fast forward where we are today. And there is one watch that leads the pack because the sensors are so good. This is a watch that actually has sensors that will actually monitor you on a continual basis. Yes, so it's continuous monitoring and will pick up any atrial fibrillation. The other thing is, I often get asked about, if you have atrial fibrillation, is there any advantage in wearing a smartwatch? In all the watches, when you go to enroll into the app, it says, do you have atrial fibrillation? And if you say yes, it won't allow you to use that feature on the watch. But with this one watch, it does, and you then gives you the option, if you do have atrial fibrillation, it's going to measure how long your heart is in atrial fibrillation, what were the aggravating and relieving factors, how long were you in atrial fibrillation, and it's going to document that and send that information to your healthcare provider. Oh my gosh, if I had that when I was practicing, it would have made my life so much easier. And this watch is really the one that stands out way ahead of the pack. And that, folks, is of course the Apple Watch. All right, let's talk about rings. But remember, we're focusing on the over 60 age group, and we're looking for two medical conditions. One is, remember, a slow heartbeat that is going to require a pacemaker, and a fast heartbeat, which may be atrial fibrillation. And how do the rings compare, and would I recommend them? Now, the two rings that we have on the market today are, of course, the Oura Ring, which has been around for a number of years. You wear it on your finger. It measures certain health parameters and sends that information back to the app on your smartphone. We also have the newly released this past year, the Samsung Ring, which does pretty much the same thing by gathering information off your finger and sending the information back to the app on your phone. Now, based on what I've said earlier this presentation, I would not recommend that you purchase either of these two devices for the information we've just discussed. Let me talk about first the Oura Ring, which has been around the longest. The Oura Ring measures your heartbeat, but it mostly does that at night and gives you an average. This is really not helpful in trying to diagnose those conditions because we need real-time monitoring and notification. It's a complete waste of time, and I would not recommend at all the Oura Ring for the health benefits that we've discussed in this video. And the second one is the Samsung Ring. Now this is an interesting ring because, of course, it does do the minimum and maximum heart rate notification. Exactly that what I asked you for in the first part of this video. So why am I not recommending the Samsung Ring? Well, because of the cost. The cost is $100 more than the Samsung Watch. And the Samsung Watch is an excellent product. It not only does it measure your maximum minimum heart rate, it also will do your blood pressure, and it will also do the atrial fibrillation detection. It does a whole bunch more for a lot less money. So I cannot recommend the Samsung Ring. Now, the other important thing that you must understand is that when we're talking about Samsung and we're talking about the health app, is the health app only works with a Samsung phone. But the health app does not work with all Samsung phones. So before you go and invest in either a Samsung Ring or a Samsung Watch, you better make sure that you have a Samsung phone and that the health app works on that to communicate. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get the health monitoring features on those devices. In summary, I don't think the rings are a good option for someone over age of 60 looking for the cardiac issues that we've talked about today. So the last little bonus tip for you is I often get asked, is there any benefit in wearing a smartwatch if you have a cardiac pacemaker? And the answer to that question is no. And the reason is, of course, is because your cardiac pacemaker will be set to a minimum amount and your heart rate isn't going to go below that. So there's no reason to be monitoring that with a smartwatch. The other issue is with atrial fibrillation, and most pacemakers now will be in constant communication through wireless technology with your cardiologist. And if you have any bouts of atrial fibrillation, they will know and contact you. Also, when you go in to have your pacemaker checked at 6 months, they check the battery every 6 months. They'll be able to download the software, which will have scanned your heart for all those beats and make sure that there's no evidence of atrial fibrillation. So you're covered in both ways for that. And there really is no point from a cardiac point of view of wearing a smartwatch if you have a pacemaker. You're all wondering, what watch do I wear with my wife? Well, I clearly want the cardiac benefit. I want to be able to pick up those two things I discussed today. So I want a watch that gives me the maximum minimum heartbeat, is going to pick up atrial fibrillation and all the things we talked about today. But I don't have an iPhone. If I had an iPhone, I would have an Apple Watch. And in trying to figure out what my choice is, I also considered the cost because these watches are expensive. And the clear winner here was the Fitbit Charge 6. Now the Fitbit Charge 6 has all the advanced cardiac monitoring that the Pixel watch has. So they're exactly the same, and it has all those features on it, but it's a lot cheaper. In fact, in the United States, the watch sells roughly for around $160 regular, but it's on sale all the time for about $99. In Canada, it sells for around $210, and it's on for about I think it's on sale now at Costco for $169. And these watches have this is the Charge 6, have all the advanced cardiac monitoring that the Pixel watch does. So it's called the Fitbit Charge 6, and that's what I wear, and that's what my wife wears. So hopefully that's been helpful for you today. Be sure and click that like and subscribe because we have 3 more videos coming out. We're going to talk about all sorts of... All right, Hewie.
Yes,
Are you there?
I am here.
Thunderbird. Now, everyone, there's all sorts of people that are listening here. They're all using Thunderbird. Now, what in the world, why would you want to use What is Thunderbird and why would you want to use it? Can you help us with that?
I can because of Drew. Drew helped me get started with it, and I
Really?
am glad I did. So let's go ahead and take a look. And I didn't hit the right button, so we're going to stop the share. and do that again. A complete guide to Thunderbird for everyday users. I'm Hewie Poplock. Today we'll explore Mozilla's flagship email solution. We'll cover what makes Thunderbird unique, its strengths and limitations, and see it in action. This balanced overview will help you decide if Thunderbird fits your email needs. Our agenda includes an introduction to Thunderbird's background and positioning, the advantages, why millions choose Thunderbird, an honest discussion of limitations and challenges, and finally some live demonstrations. Thunderbird is Mozilla's free open source email client, the same organization behind Firefox. It was launched in 2004. It's been serving users over 20 years. Unlike web-based mail, Thunderbird is desktop software you install locally. Cross-platform, works on Windows, Mac, Linux, and phones. Just more than email. It's a complete communication suite with calendar, contacts, and chat. It's currently used by millions worldwide, from individuals to large organizations. Email management, multiple accounts, advanced filtering, powerful search. Calendar integration, built-in Lightning calendar for scheduling and events. Address book, comprehensive contact management with groups and custom fields. Extensions, thousands of add-ons to customize functionality. Cross-platform, same experience across all the operating systems. Security, built-in encryption, digital signatures, and privacy controls. These features make Thunderbird a complete productivity solution, not just an email reader. Now let's explore why Thunderbird has such a loyal user base. We'll examine 3 key categories that set it apart. These benefits explain why many users choose Thunderbird over commercial alternatives. Each advantage addresses real user needs and concerns. It's 100% free. No licensing fees, no subscription costs, no hidden charges. It's open source, complete transparency. You can examine the code yourself. Community-driven, development guided by user needs, not corporate profits. No vendor lock-in. Your data remains yours. Export anytime. This combination is rare in today's software landscape, where most solutions require ongoing payments. Open source means security vulnerabilities are quickly identified and fixed by the global community. Strong encryption, built-in support for ℏ and OpenPGP encryption. Local data storage. Your emails stay on your computer, not in the corporate clouds. No data mining. Mozilla doesn't scan your emails for advertising or analytics. User control. You decide what data to share and with whom. This is crucial in today's privacy-conscious environment. Unlike Gmail or Outlook.com, Thunderbird doesn't build advertising profiles from your communications. It's perfect for organizations with strict data compliance requirements. There's a flexible interface, customized layouts, toolbars, and workflows to your preferences. Extensive add-ons, over 1,000 extensions available for specialized needs. Theme support, change the entire look and feel to match your style. Advanced configuration, power users can fine-tune every aspect. This level of customization is unmatched by web-based email clients. Examples: automatic email sorting, advanced spam filtering, integration with external tools. You could truly make Thunderbird work the way you work. To give you a complete picture, let's honestly discuss Thunderbird's limitations. Every software has trade-offs, and Thunderbird is no exception. Understanding these challenges helps you make an informed decision. These aren't deal breakers for everyone, but they're important to consider. A dated interface. The UI hasn't kept pace with modern design trends. Complexity for beginners. Many features can overwhelm new users. Steeper learning curve. More complex than simple webmail interfaces. The interface reflects Thunderbird's power user heritage. New users often find the abundance of options confusing initially. However, this complexity enables the advanced features that power users love. Resource usage. It can consume significant RAM with large mailboxes. Slow startup. It takes longer to launch than web-based alternatives. Stability issues. Occasional crashes, especially with many add-ons. Limited mobile integration. No official mobile app sync can be complex. These issues are most noticeable with very large email archives, 100,000 plus messages. Performance has improved in recent versions, but still lags behind some competitors. Mobile limitation is significant in today's smartphone-centric world. Now for the exciting part, seeing Thunderbird in action. I'll walk you through key features using live installation. This hands-on demonstration will show you exactly how Thunderbird works. Pay attention to the workflow and interface. This is what daily use looks like. Account setup. How easy is it to set up email accounts? Email management, organizing, filtering, and searching messages. Calendar integration, scheduling and event management. Add-ons installation, extending functionality with extensions. Security features, encryption, and privacy controls in action. Thunderbird excels for users who value privacy, customization, and control. The best fit: power users, privacy-conscious individuals, organizations with compliance needs. Remember, you can always try it risk-free alongside your current email solution. Let's take a look at some demos and some screenshots. Thunderbird demo overview is going to be, we're going to talk about email management, calendar integration, add-ons, security features, and account setup. We're actually going to set up a full account. Here's what Thunderbird looks like, and if you want to create a new message, you just click that little box that says new message. Also, you can have unified folders, so you can have folders for each of the email accounts that you have in Thunderbird, but you can look at them all at once. When you look at unified folders, all of the emails down the list are from all of your emails. So some of them may be in a throwaway account. So you've got to be careful that it still could be a junk mail or spam. And you might not want to do that. It will show all of the mails in order that you have preferred, and you can change the orders by type, by the person, and so on. I do it by date. And these are the emails as they come in. You can see that starting at 4 o'clock up to 6:42. The ones that are not in bold print means I've already read them. If it's in bold print, I have not read them. You have a search and a filter message that you can use. The search bar, this searches everything in all of your folders. It's located at the top. You type a word, Thunderbird builds a search results screen, includes a timeline of when the emails arrive. It lets users click and jump to the actual message. This is the best tool for finding old emails that you know you received. The quick filter bar, this is the fastest way to find things. It has buttons of unread, starred, in contact, tags, attachments, and clear button. It's great for finding emails right now, especially during meetings or travel. Then you have choices when you look at your email. You can reply, forward, you can archive it, you can mark it as spam. And as soon as you mark it as spam, it takes it out of your inbox and puts it in the spam box. We'll also mark that sender as a person who sends spam. All of the mails will go from that person into that bucket. So you want to be careful. You can also delete, and then there's a few more things that you can do with your emails. The calendar, it looks a lot like Google Calendar, and because I have listed some calendars here, I added it to the top one, which is my Gmail calendar. If I add something here, it adds it to my Gmail, to my main calendar that I look at on a regular basis. If I delete it from that calendar, it will also delete it here. Add-ons, the one thing about Thunderbird, there are thousands of add-ons. You can do a search and find them. These are some of the popular ones, the Thunderbird Conversations, Quick Folders, Mail Merge is a very popular one, and down at the bottom is ℎ𝕝𝕝𝕝, which add import and export functionalities of Evernote export file. So if I get an email and I want to put it in Evernote, I can use ℎ𝕝𝕝𝕝. I tell it to export it, and then I can import it right away into my Evernote. Security and privacy, remote content blocking prevents tracking. Phishing alerts warn about suspicious links. Junk filtering learns what to block. End-to-end encryption options are built in. There are no ads, no data scanning, and it's privacy by design in Thunderbird. If you want to add an account, I'm going to show you how next. Let's see how easy it is to add another email account to Thunderbird. We're going to come up here. We're going to click on Account Settings. We're going to go to New Account and Mail Account. Now we're going to type in the fellow's name and his email address. That's the email address we want. It's going to say what the password is. Select what? Mozilla Thunderbird email, and so on. So we're going to say Mozilla email. Select all. We want to read, compose, send, and permanently delete all your email. Okay. We want to see, edit, delete, permanently delete your contacts, and edit and share, permanent delete all the calendars. Let's not do those two. Let's just do the read, compose. We could do all of them. And we say continue. We're going to use IMAP and continue. No address books found, that's fine. No calendars found, that's fine. We're going to continue. Email account connected successfully. Finish. All right, there it is, all the information about it. So let's come back here. And we see we now have that email address, and there is all of the emails that have been sitting there since 2015. It's one I haven't used in a while. But I added it now to my list within Thunderbird. That's how easy it is to add a new address, especially a Gmail. Final thoughts. Powerful yet simple email management for all users. Strong security and privacy with no ads or tracking. Highly customizable with hundreds of extensions. Integrated calendar, contacts, and task tools. Excellent option for seniors wanting clarity and control. That's Thunderbird. A complete guide to Thunderbird for everyday users. I'm Hewie Poplock. And there you go.
Huey, I'll add that there's now an Android application for Thunderbird as well.
Yes, and I have it running on my phone, on my Pixel phone. I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Huey. Very interesting. I'm sure there'll be lots of, I've got a few questions for you. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions in the Q&A. We'll reserve those because Mike has to get on with our entertainment section now. So, Mike, I'll just, while you're setting up, I'll just say goodbye to everybody over on our YouTube feed. If you want to pop over and participate in our Q&A, we have lots of room for you. And don't forget our Thursday show, and we'll be back next week on Monday. And have a great Thanksgiving. So we'll say goodbye to our YouTube feed. Let me just say stop live stream, and we will let you take it away, Mike.
Okay, I'll just get my screen shared here. And today, notable events in music history and entertainment history for November the 24th. Some rock and roll losses. This date in 1991 is one of the most tragic days in rock history, with the passing of two major figures. Freddie Mercury of Queen, get this right, dies. The iconic frontman of Queen died at the age of 45 due to AIDS-related complications, only one day after he publicly acknowledged having the disease. His death was a massive blow to the music world. Also in 1991, Eric Carr, the drummer for Kiss, died on his way on the very same day as Freddie Mercury at age 41 from heart cancer, a cerebral hemorrhage, while hospitalized. He had been the band's drummer since 1980, replacing Peter Criss. Some music chart successes and milestones. In 1979, the first all-female duet hits #1. The song No More Tears, Enough is Enough by Barbra Streisand and Donna Summer hit #1 on the U.S. Billboard chart. It was the first time a duet between two women topped the U.S. chart. 1973, Ringo Starr topped the Billboard Hot 100 with his single Photograph, which he co-wrote with his former bandmate George Harrison. It was Ringo's first of two solo songs to reach #1 in the U.S. 1998, Metallica releases Garage Incorporated. The band released their double album compilation of cover songs, which debuted at #1. Some other milestones. In 1966, the Beatles began Sgt. Pepper sessions. They began recording sessions for what became the legendary album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which featured the 4 tracks for the song Strawberry Fields Forever. In 1972, In Concert debuts. ABC aired the first episode of its late-night rock show In Concert, which featured artists like Alice Cooper and Seals and Croft. This show helped establish the format for future televised live performances. Notable births. 1941, Pete Best, the original drummer for the Beatles, who was replaced by Ringo Starr just before the band's worldwide breakthrough. 1941, Donald Duck Dunn, American bassist, producer, and songwriter, best known as a member of the instrumental band Booker T and the MGs. You probably remember the big hit Green Onion. 1962, John Squire, guitarist and songwriter for the influential British rock band The Stone Roses. That brings us to today's prime pick of the week. And the prime pick this week is a movie called Identity Thief. Released in 2013, currently priming on Amazon Prime as part of your, Amazon Prime account. It's a mildly mannered businessman, Sandy Patterson, travels from his home in Denver to Florida to confront a deceptively harmless-looking woman who has been living it up after stealing his identity. Stars Jason Bateman and Melissa McCarthy. And I'll get you to play that in a second, just before I introduce the music clip, which we can roll into after that. And then we're going to play the music clip. Today is going to be No More Tears, Enough is Enough with Donna Summer and Barbra Streisand. So I'll stick these in the chat, and I'll unshare so you can play those two clips, Ron. And that's this week's Entertainment Corner.
Well done. Well done, Mike. Excellent. Boy, you forget how young she looked. That was really interesting, those images, eh? Like
Yeah.
how old would she be in those pictures?
Oh, that was in the late 70s, so she wouldn't have been that old. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, she looked pretty young.
yeah,
Interesting. Very good. Thanks a lot. I'm gonna look forward to that movie. That's gonna be a great movie for next
it is. It's a good one.
Saturday night. Okay. Excellent. All right, so we are ready to move into our Q&A, but before we do that, I have to say if you have to take off and you're not going to be sticking around for the Q&A, please remember that we will be broadcasting this Thursday on Thanksgiving, our Tech for Senior live. So if you want to have a listen to the news of the week, we will be there this Thursday. Otherwise, we'll be back next Monday, and Hewie will be, of course, the MC next Monday. I'll be